You're listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
Louie A Guzman.
Sir.
Welcome to the Halloween Spooktacular. Welcome back to the podcast, man.
Oh, man. Good to be back.
So I wanted to do a Halloween special, and you mentioned that you had quite a feyou scary stories.
Yes.
And so I wanted to know all about them.
Well, I'm ready to share.
Do you think you're a little sensitive to things, or?
I do. My whole life, since a child, I can go back way back. I've experienced things, seen things, felt things, and a lot of times I just bit my tongue and just would remain just frozen in scaredness, like my body wouldn't move.
How old do you think you were when you had your first experience?
I would say I was in my maybe 10 or 11 years old, and it was scary. So my cousin George was a wild child. My aunt was telling my mom, like, I don't know what to do with him. Like, he's just can't control him. He's acting weird. And my mom came one day. I remember it was during the summer. She said, "Hey, all the kids get out of the house. Go to the backyard of the house." And I was like, "But the cousins are coming over." And she's like, "It's only cousin George. Everybody go out the house." And she goes, "You can't come in until we're done." And so, of course, I was curious. And I used to really admire my cousin George. Like, he was everything to me. He was tall, attractive.
Was he older?
He was older.
Okay.
He was an older cousin, rode motorcycles. Like, he just was that, like, my Fonzie, if you will. If you can refer to that. And I remember they closed the door, and my mom, my aunt, Carol came over, and some other ladies from the church were there. And I remember hearing, like, praying and stuff and some screaming. And I'm trying to figure out what is going on in the house. Like, and that's my cousin. Like, I adored the cousin George, and I admired him probably more than probably a teenager should for somebody that was always in trouble. And so I remember climbing in through the window of my mom's bedroom window and sneaking into the kitchen. And in the living room, there was George on the floor in the living room with the lights were kind of low and some candles there. My mom was leading the prayer with the ladies of the church. And he was frothing at the mouth. And they were praying, and like, my hair's starting to stand up. And they were praying over George. And just like constantly, my mom was calling out, like, leave him in the name of Jesus, like, constantly. And that's one thing my mom always told me: the most powerful word in the world is the word of Jesus. To say his name rebukes everything that's of evil and of not of this world. So they were doing all this and praying on the rosary and the Bible and holy water. And I just remember him just screaming in such pain. And then at one point, one of the little church ladies moved over, and George turned to me and just stared at me. And at that point, I saw something that as I look back, it just was just the face. It wasn't my cousin. Whatever looked at me was not my cousin on that floor screaming. And my mom, I don't know, something moved in her. She turned back. She says, "Get out of here." And if you remember in the Bible, when Jesus cast out the demons, and the demon says, "Send us to the pigs," or, don't just cast us out. When the spirit leaves, it goes somewhere. It has to find its next. And so I don't think I was possessed, but I think that opened me up to the experience of whatever was in George that day, saw me. And I think that at that time, and we'll go into the rest of it, but I think from that moment on is when I knew that I was living a life that was different than other people, and we'll experience other things that came to fruition later on.
Yeah. Do you think that I had this thought recently. There was a time when I lived in this apartment in Corpus, and this isn't my first experience, but I feel like I was older when I first started seeing things and weird things.
Right.
But, I was living in this apartment in Corpus, and I had already had experiences, but I was alone. I lived by myself, and odd things kept happening. I'd hear those vertical blinds. I'd hear them hitting each other. I'd get up with my gun. I'd go to the living room, and they were still. I remember there being banging on my bedroom window, and I was like, "Oh, it's probably the neighbors partying."
Right.
But I was on the third floor. There's no way to get to that window.
No.
And just odd things like that. My wife, we were dating at the time. She was asleep on the sofa and she felt somebody sit at her feet. She thought it was me, and she said she looked and nobody was there. So she got scared and came to her bedroom. But I say all that about that apartment because this is something that has kind of made me think, what if, not that I want something following me,
right?
But what if things follow you and they continuously follow you? Because one night I went to sleep and I had this dream where I'm walking through like this, like a car dump, right? They're stacked to Caliche Road, daytime. And I'm walking down this dirt road and I keep looking back and I see this guy dressed in like a cloak with a hood and he's way behind me. And every time I turn around, he's like an abnormal amount of distance closer to me.
Right.
Like there's no way he could have covered that much ground.
Right.
Third time I turn around, he's right behind me. We're face to face. And I don't know if have you ever seen Jacob's Ladder?
Yeah.
There's a part where the guy's face is moving real quick.
Yeah.
Well, this thing has a hood on and its face is shaking. But it's got a wolf face. I woke up from that dream and I went to go pray the Our Father. Couldn't remember the words.
Yes.
And it wasn't like I just couldn't remember. I felt like something was keeping me from saying it.
Yes.
Called my mom. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning. Called mom and I'm, hey mom, what are you doing? Mijo, I'm sleeping. I said, well, hey, pray the Our Father with me.
Yeah.
We pray the Our Father. I go to bed. The next day I printed it out, put it in my wallet. This was a long time ago before good cell phones. And so I used to carry it with me. I had a conversation with my mom. She came to stay with me recently, and we were watching a podcast. And she says, she tells me a story of when she feels like she met the devil. And I said, really? She said, yeah. And this is years apart. I don't expect her to remember my story.
Right.
She says, I was up super late praying. I don't know if she was reading the Bible or praying the rosary, what she was doing. Dad had been real sick. So she was by herself, up late, praying in the bedroom. She said, I didn't see anything. She said, but I felt like there was a wolf in the corner. She said, distracting me from my prayer. She said, and I felt like it was the devil. And it was funny because this was probably, I'm old, Louie. It's probably 25 years apart, you know?
Wow.
And it's funny because like I sit there and I think about my dream that felt pretty real with a wolf. And then here she's describing her interaction with what she felt was a wolf.
Right.
And so part of me sits there and goes, well, what if this is the same thing, right? And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But sometimes I'm like, what if this is the same interaction that she had and that I had? And maybe it's something that is interested in us for some reason.
Right.
You know?
The family itself.
Right.
Yeah. I fully believe in that. There's things, my mom has experienced things before her passing that she talked about. And I remember as kids. And sometimes I never really share a lot of things we're about to share today because people don't believe you. Like it's hard. People like, unless they've experienced it, we were talking before we started recording. When you were saying things, my hair was standing on the back of my neck because I've lived and experienced these things. Yeah. When we did our last haunted call, when we did the podcast, and I did a short little story where I talked about my first time seeing the devil. It's always hard because that night, everything I relive it. So tonight, I know I will relive those memories again while I'm trying to sleep. But ever since then, I've been followed by my own shadow. There's been a shadow that has constantly followed me. And I thought it was only going to be in my house. So I felt when I moved away in the military and joined the military that it would all end. But it continued on, like in different moments where I've seen my visitor in the night that I would call him. And it's strange because you get this, I get this locked motion where I can't move, I can't speak, and it has total control and reign over what's happening to me. And it's the weirdest thing that it just comes out of nowhere. And so at one point when I was in the military, we had bunk beds. I was in the dorm, and my body got pulled to, like, I'm sleeping against one wall. I'm in the bed, but now all of a sudden my shoulder and my neck is the only thing on the bed. The rest of my body is perpendicular to the bed. Like I'm hanging.
Really?
And I'm straight forward out. My roommate sleeping underneath me, his name was Chad. When he woke up, all he heard me was thump on the ground. He heard me moving in the bed, and I'm trying to fight whatever was happening to me, but I completely turned level. And then was when I was finally released, and I'm trying to say the name of Jesus, because I go back to my mom's prayers and what she always told us. And you can't enunciate. Like I can't enunciate. Like you mentioned, you can't think, you can't get the words out. And so all of a sudden I couldn't even get a J out, like the sound of the J. And I'm babbling just and trying to just feel like I'm trying to fight. And once that word hits, I'm released immediately. And then I'm on the ground. He said he's seen my legs hanging straight out and thought that I was holding on to bed, like doing an ab workout. He goes, why would you be doing that at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
And that has been my bewitching hour. I can tell you to this point as a 55-year-old man, I hate waking up anytime between the hours of 2 to 3, because that is the bewitching hour. People used to say, at midnight is the spooky hour. In the Bible, it tells you between 2 to 3, because the devil at 3 o'clock, around that 3 o'clock range, is when the devil makes fun of the Trinity. That's when he strikes the most. So when you wake up during that time frame, it's a call to show the God that, hey, I control this world, and that's his interpretation of making fun of the Trinity of the Holy Ghost, the Father and the Son.
Wow.
So a lot of people say that's the time when you really need to pray the most, because people around the world are experiencing the things that we're experiencing, and that is the time to call on to be prayer warriors. And so there's a big movement of that as well within the nation of trying to protect people from that time frame.
Wow. I had no clue. You know, it's funny, you talk about how strong the name Jesus is. Mom was staying with us here recently for a little while, and we had conversations, right? And we talk about Bible and just experiences and things like that. And I had mentioned again about the prayer and not being able to, feeling like something was keeping me from saying it. She said, the name of Jesus is very powerful. If you can't remember the prayer, just say Jesus' name, exactly what you're talking about. And she left on a Sunday to go back to George West. Sunday night, oh man, it's so strange. I had a dream that I was face to face with the devil. And in that dream, I was trying to say Jesus. And I couldn't get the J out. It started, and it was repetitive. It was
just like that.
Over and over and over and over. I told my wife, I said, finally in my dream, I started saying Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And I woke up. Oh, yeah, I got to sleep. I'm gross when I sleep, man. My gut's hanging out, or my crack's hanging out. I got this mask on sideways. I wake up and I'm saying Jesus, Jesus. In reality. And I told my wife, I said, it was so crazy, because here my mom is very strong in her faith. And the night she leaves, I have this friggin' dream. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, we'll get into some more stories in a minute, but I feel like a lot of my scary interactions or hauntings or ghosts or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, I feel like a lot of them are just, sometimes I feel like they're just spirits of people moving around.
Correct.
And for some reason I saw it. And I feel like when Dad passed, things have been a lot more malicious. And this is a strange thing, right? Too, because like I've talked to my brother, and I've seen like religious people talk about things. And one thing that they talk about is, they say when your loved one dies, they go to heaven, hell, or purgatory. Right. And like, I have this strong feeling that's like, I don't know that I believe that, because I feel like if I really love somebody, or they really love me, and they pass, and I feel like they're around. Right. Like I've heard that somewhere in the Bible says, no, that's a demon pretending to be your loved one.
Correct. That entity, yeah.
And so, like, a lot of times I don't want to believe that. Like, I want to believe that's my brother. Right. I want to believe that's my dad. But it's interesting because, like, I feel like for years I've seen non-malicious things. And then since Dad passed, things have felt more malicious. Yeah. And so part of me goes, were all those years that I've been seeing things, have they been malicious things coming across as though they were not malicious.
Correct. Just to get you used to it, to get
Right.
you comfortable with, and it's the desensitivity of it all. To say we've been around, but now we can go a little deeper. We can go a little harder at you.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I didn't believe that till just now in this conversation. You know, because I was like, no, that's definitely my brother.
Right.
You know, no, that's definitely this. But when I sit here and we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about the year that I had after Dad. Mm-hmm. Like I told y'all earlier, I felt like something felt more comfortable.
Right.
Right. Like it was a negative thing that felt more comfortable. Mm-hmm. Didn't feel the need to hide. Like when I told you when I saw that thing on the porch.
Right.
Like it didn't feel the need to hide. And it's funny because like a lot of times people feel how they feel about religion or
Right.
Or Christianity or whatever. And it's funny because like I sit there and go, my experiences are my proof.
Right, exactly. Lived experiences. That's your proof. Nobody can ever tell me that there is no God. You can't tell me that because the things that I've lived through and the things that I've seen. Oh, there's no devil. I've seen evil. I've seen the face of evil. I've seen on the podcast that we did that was just over the phone. I seen the face of the devil attack me in the middle of the night, and ever since then it's just been rampant. And now I live with it every once in, like, it's every blue moon. But I think when you have people that are positive, like your mom, strong force of good, you know, faith, when she enters your house, it cleanses the house.
Yeah.
They have to make a stronger attack to get you back into the normality of it all. And so that's probably why things are stronger. I can tell a story when my mom had passed, and I had an apartment with 3-bedroom apartment, and I had a roommate. Me and my roommate had, one of the roommates, we shared a bathroom, so our rooms were on the backs, both sides of the bathroom. I remember laying in bed, and all of a sudden, I just felt that apartment feeling weird. It's like, what is going on? Like something didn't feel right, and I kept thinking, you know, Mom always told me, I'm never going to come and visit you. Like when I'm gone, I'm gone. Mm-hmm. Like if something comes in and you think it's me, it's not me. She was, I will never be in the darkness. I'll never be in the shadows. You will only see me in the light if you ever see me. And so that always resonated. And so the next day, I'm sitting in my apartment. All the roommates are out, and I'm watching TV, and all of a sudden, I just started getting goosebumps. It's like, what is happening? The room changed a little different, and I lived in an apartment off of Seminary Creek in San Antonio, and these apartments had a little patio that you would have to go in through a gate to get into the patio. And so I'm sitting in there watching TV, starting to feel uneasy about just being in the house alone, and then all of a sudden, I hear the gate slam, so that you had to go through the gate to get into the patio to get into the house. Because it was like a U. If you imagine like the apartment was like a U shape with the courtyard in the middle, and then you had to get through the gate. So I heard the gate slam, so I'm thinking, oh, the roommates are home. Like finally, I'm not going to be home alone, and I can relax. And I'm waiting, like, well, where are they at? Like they haven't walked in yet. So I get up and look, and there's nothing there. But in the courtyard, the leaves were spinning in a circle.
Really?
It was the weirdest thing. The leaves were spinning in a circle, just circling around. And so I open up the door and go out there, and I'm looking around. Like there was a storm kind of moving in, and those nuances happen in nature, like the little whirlwinds and stuff.
Sure.
But it just felt so supernatural to me. I went into the house, closed the door, and I'm literally, my hair standing on the neck. I'm texting the roommates, "Where are you guys at? How soon are you coming home? I need somebody in the house right now. I cannot be alone." They finally come home, and they're like, "Oh, you're just getting paranoid or whatever." And so I go to bed that night. And then again, I'm woken up. Something doesn't feel right. So I said, let me get water. Let me just try to figure this out. And I'm trying to say prayers, but I can't get a thought in. Like when I can think about everything else.
Right. It's like we were talking about earlier
Right.
When I was talking about the rosary and these constant distractions.
I can't focus on anything when I try to pray away whatever's happening. So I go to the kitchen to get something, to get a water. And I look, I'm startled because as I'm walking into the kitchen, I look to my immediate left, and there is my roommate, Robert, on his laptop. He's on his laptop, and he's sitting in the dark with the laptop. You can see like the lights like in my face. It's just lit up. And I was like, what are you doing? It startled me, and I was like, you should be in bed by now. Like we both work in the morning. Like why are you up at this hour? And he's like, oh, I'm having a conversation. And I said, with who? Like something told me, who are you talking to?
He was actually there, though,
yeah,
right?
He was actually there. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, he was actually there. And I said, who are you talking to on the computer? And he's like, I'm going to close it out. So I get my thing and I go to bed. I said, just get to bed. Like, I'm always the father in most of my friendships.
Sure.
So I go to bed. I hear his door go to bed. So I fall asleep.
You're bossy, Louie.
I'm a little bossy. And so our rooms are identical, but they're just a mirror of each other. So the bed is we're both in bed, and the door is both, when you're laying down, facing down, my door is to my right and his door is to his left. So we're at opposite ends with the bathroom in the middle. And I remember feeling something outside my door. And so I'm looking at the door, and so I'm starting to pray as I'm looking at my door, waiting for something, like the shadow that has followed me my whole life. I'm waiting for that thing to enter into my door. And I'm praying, and all of a sudden, it's gone. So as I'm praying towards the door, that's gone. But now I feel something outside my window. So I roll over, and I'm like, I always face whatever. And to this day, I will tell you, I always, well, even since as a child, I always have a light on, because my mom always told me, where there is darkness, there is no God. There's no light. So you must always have a light on for the presence of God to be around you. So to this day, I always, no matter who I'm dating, relationships, whatever, my dog, there was always a light on when I sleep. I said, I always will face my accuser, always face my attacker, whether human or spiritual or not. So I kept all night tossing and turning, and finally it just seemed to end. The next afternoon when I come home, I was asking Robert, I said, who were you talking to on the phone? Because I had a weird night, and I haven't had that in a while. And he says, I was talking to a satanic person on the chat. One of the chats, he got into a chat back then on AOL. You could jump into different rooms. Yeah. And I was like,
ASL.
Yes. And he was talking to somebody, and I said, you allowed something in this house. You allowed something to grow in this house. I said, you knew I was already, something that happened earlier, and I told you I was scared to be in the home alone. And then you get on a chat. What made you go into that room? He goes, I just felt compelled to go in there. I'm scrolling through the different rooms. I said, let me see what this is about. He was in a chat with a gentleman, and I forget the conversation, but the guy was getting him to try to say certain things out loud in the house while he's on the chat line. And he
was getting him to say it in the house?
The guy was telling him, hey, say this out loud in your home. And he was doing it. And he said, Louie, when I started getting really scared, all of a sudden you walked into the room and said, turn that off. And when you asked me who I was talking to, you freaked me out. I was like, how does he know? Because he even felt scared, but he felt too scared to even click off. And
wow.
So I told him, I says, last night, I said, after that, when I went to bed, I said, I knew something was in the house because something was at my door, something was at my window, and I kept rolling back and forth to pray, trying to figure this out. I said,
you were fending it off.
Correct. And the thing was, what the craziest part is, he was doing the same thing in his room. As we were going back and forth, we were both praying whatever the entity was or whatever the spirit was away from his door. And I don't know that if we were in the same time, we're going back and forth, but he said he woke up and felt scared and he thought it was first at me outside his door, mad for him being on the computer that late at night. But when he realized there's nobody outside the door, there's just a thing. He actually opened the door to look out, thinking I would be standing there like mad at him, figuring out when to go yell at him. And when he realized there's nobody there, but he knows something is there.
Yeah.
And went back and forth. And that went on for years in that apartment. We were in the apartment for about two years. Then my mom had passed away, and she was my rock. She was my world. And
did you talk to her about things like this?
I did. And she always told me, of course, little Hispanic lady, you better live your life right, because the Lord, they're going to come and get you. And she always told me, the devil gets his own. That was always her words. The devil gets his own. So you might have everything that you want. If the devil's giving it to you, eventually you're going to pay your dues.
Sure.
So she said the devil gets his own. So when she passed away, my family, I don't know how much to go on, but they didn't want to do the what do you call it when you get up and you talk about the parent?
Oh, eulogy.
Mm-hmm. None of them wanted to do it. They all talk a lot of smack, but nobody was, had the heart to go and up there. So I remember saying, I'll do it. I'll be the voice of the family. I was the second oldest. Okay, I got it. So I remember playing Mark Anthony's song, You Sang to Me. My mom loved Mark Anthony when he was out. And so I was playing that song over and over again, just bawling, writing out the words that I was going to eventually say during her eulogy. And when I completed it, I turned, and it's the same kitchen table that gentleman, Robert, was at. I turned and started walking to my bedroom, just bawling. Like I'm just, she was everything to me. And as I turn into my room, I just saw this beam of light, white, bright, brilliant white light that just moved through the house. It went from, if you're looking down the hallway where I go to my bedroom, if you look back to the hallway, the kitchen's to the right, and then the living room's to the left. I had left my writing on the table, and I saw this brilliant beam of white light move across from the kitchen through the hallway into that space. I felt peace. All of a sudden, I just lay down, no longer was crying. I felt at peace. My mom, again, when she said, I will never come to you in the shadow, I'll never come to you in the night, I will be there when you need me. And to me, I felt like she came in to read that moment. Mm. And so, as you mentioned, like having something, positive power, positive energy, the good stuff. And then the following week, went out with some friends because I thought, okay, all the haunting's gone, like all this stuff, I feel free. Went out with my friend, Ruben, went out dancing, went to the clubs, drank it up. And instead of taking him home, I was like, hey, probably shouldn't have been drinking and driving, but we get home and I said, hey, just crash out. But my roommate had friends over and they were on the couch. I said, put a pillow between us and we'll just go to bed. So we fell asleep in the evilness that did follow my life. All of a sudden I woke up with Ruben laying right next to me and I'm seeing the man standing at the foot of the bed. And I'm thinking, at first I thought it was somebody from my roommate's friends that were sleeping. I thought they came into the room. And so first thing I said, like, what are you doing here? And it just doesn't move because the lights are off. Ruben always, when I turn the light on, he would turn it off. When I would fall asleep, he'd cut the lights off because he said, your eyes are closed. How you can't see the light when your eyes are closed?
Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah. And so he turned the light off when I went to bed. So that's what freaked me out. And so I'm looking at this shadow standing at the foot of the bed. And I'm saying, get out of here. And he just kept looking at me. And then it hit me. I felt the frost in my body just tingled. And then I'm like, I can't talk. All of a sudden, once I realized what it really was, that it was boldly facing me. But I'm not alone. Ruben is laying right next to me asleep. And as it leaned back and it jumped, it went to jump into the bed. I just remember finally getting out the words out because all of a sudden I just had a flash of my mom's face in my head as my thoughts. And I said, no more, I'm done. And I remember putting my hand up and just wiping it away. As it was jumping, it was like I was just brushing it aside. And then I fell asleep, went to bed, didn't say anything to Ruben about what I experienced. And that was Saturday night into Sunday. Monday morning or Monday afternoon after work, Ruben calls me. He says, what did you do to me? And I was like, what are you talking about?
You're like, we had a pillow.
Yeah, exactly. Like, nothing happened, Ruben. And he's like, what did you do to me? And I said, what are you talking about? He says, Louie, I've been seeing shadows in my house ever since I left your house Saturday night. And then I said, I got to tell him. I have to tell him. So I told him everything that happened. And he goes, you put that on me, Louie. You gave it to me now. And I said, I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted it away from me. And so he had to call.
Do you think the swiping motion?
I think the swiping motion and just saying, and finally realizing that I'm done. And then I thought it was over. And then months later, there it is again. I don't think it ever left. I think it made me get a sense of security. And then it reapproaches. I've seen it in my every apartment. I was deployed I was in Turkey in my room. And there it was. And I was like, this motherfucker guy got free travel tickets. Like this guy, this thing was everywhere. And I was like, how can I not escape this? Like, and it scares me. And now when it comes to me, lately, it gives me this false sense of security. So it'll appear and I'll say the name of Jesus. And it usually, I'm going to hate myself tonight because I'm going to relive all this. So I have certain dreams that I'm in a house and it's always the same house. And in this house is a beautiful house. I'm walking up and down, I have friends. But when I walk past a room, there's always the same room in the house that I can't go in. It's in there, but it somehow it entices me into the room. So it brings me into its world. And so I see a shadow in the corner or I hear a thump. And I know I can't stay in this room. I never want to get to the part where I stay in the room or stay in the dream that long to find out what happens in the end. And so I lived that. So as soon as I start having that dream, my body says, get up, like wake up. And so now it has taken such a control over the situation that when I wake up, I would get up and I turn the light on. I just need to get light. Like what Mom said, flood the room with light, let there be light. And so when I get up to turn the light on, all of a sudden there's no power. And I'm thinking, oh, did the power go out? And so and then I open up the hallway, like
this is in reality?
I'm in reality.
Okay.
I'm in my bed. I think it's reality. So that's just it. Because before, when I said the word of Jesus, I would come out and I'm in my room and I'm awake and I'm really awake. Now it has allowed me to believe in the delusion of whatever is happening and how they're controlling me. Is I get up to turn the light on and there's no power. So I go open up the door and go into my hallway, and I have my house is like a rectangle. So I have this long hallway, and I turn the light on, and that's when I realize, you're not out. And I go into panic mode. I wake up in sweats because I realize now I'm in a different level. I'm deeper than before, and I feel like I just keep being pulling back. I've had the bed punched or the bed jump, and I'm like, I don't even have a dog in the room right now. I'm not sleeping with nobody. There's nobody to do this. When I first moved into the house, I realized, and I think whatever the homeowner sold the house, I think there was something happening, and that allowed this to come back to me. When I first went to the house, I was laying down, and I would be sleeping, just barely falling asleep, and I would hear in the wall on my bed where my headstand is, or my the headboard is, and I was like, what is that? Like, it's a brick house. Like nobody's going to hit the side of my house, and I hear them knock. And so I would just ignore it. Like I'm pretending, oh, maybe I'm just half asleep and it's just an energy or something. And then one day when I heard it, I pounded the wall back like I'm fucking done hearing this. When I pounded it back 3 times, boom, 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 I ran out of that room so fast. And I went, and I used to smudge, but now I no longer do that.
What's smudge?
Smudge with the white sage or sage.
Oh, gotcha.
To smudge the house and to do that. But I realized that is not a Christian thing. That's just a Native American thing. That's not in Christianity. So that could there's claims that could potentially open up other portals. So I kept allowing things to continue to come into my house without realizing it. And as I learned more, and granted, everybody can say one thing or another. They can pick one side or another. But then my current roommate lives in, he was from the RGV. He would go down there and get holy water. By the handfuls, I'm throwing holy water in every corner of my house and praying. But I realized when I bought the house, there was a Christian card. There was a prayer card stuck in the door frame. Whoever lived there, I truly believe, had experienced things in that house, and that's why they sold the house. And then when I bought it, it felt so welcoming, but then it felt so uncomfortable at times. And nobody should ever feel uncomfortable by being haunted by something. Sure. And it goes on and on. So it's.
So do you think when you bought the house, this is something new, or do you think this goes all the way back to your cousin?
I think it goes back to my cousin. I think as you move through life, I think it's always around you. But if you're surrounded yourself with good people and good energy, it comes to you. It has no way to get close to you. But when you start having doubts and you start going through depression and sadness, and in 2011 I had a cancer scare. I got depressed, and all of a sudden I had so much despair. My coworkers didn't want to be around me. My staff hated me. I didn't think suicide, but I thought, tonight, if the devil came and got me tonight, maybe I don't say the word of Jesus. I said, let's just end this. I got so to that point where I was almost inviting him. I almost, at some points when I was so depressed of between the cancer and then the breakups that go along with all that and just the emotional, at one point I can remember thinking, you know what, come tonight. And this time I'm okay if you take me. And it never happened because now I'm daring you to come and get me, because I'm just done with this. But I think they enjoy the putting us in those moments and just the continual terror that it happens.
What's interesting is we talked a little bit earlier about some stuff, and I called it being indifferent to being alive. For about a year, and this sounds terrible, but for about a year, the only thing I prayed for was a good death. you know, and it wasn't like I'm ready. It wasn't like, hey, I want to die tonight. It was, hey, if I'm gonna die, just at least let me die a good death, you know. But I was praying to God for it. You know, it wasn't like I was seeking something else,
Right.
Because I was very negative. But I think even in that, that was probably not a godly thing to do, or you know. And so, like I told you, that first year after Dad passed, man, I was so ugly, Louie. Like we probably hung out at some point,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like I was negative toward the people that I was hanging out with.
Right.
I hide it real well,
Right.
you know. And so I'd go home, and I did a podcast with one guy, and we were talking, and he's kind of a self-help guy, and I told him, I think put him on his heels a little bit, because I told him, I said, this is the first day in 3 days that I didn't get out of work, go home, immediately go sit in the dark in the spare bedroom and stay there till I fell asleep, and then go to work the next day. I said, I've done that for 3 days in a row, and I told him, I said, this is the first day that I did not do that, you know. And it's like, it's crazy, because I've always been, I think part of maybe my issue is I'm a sensitive person, in the sense that, like, I'm very emotional. You know, I have really high highs and really low lows, and there's not a lot of room in the middle, you know. And so, like, when I'm down, man, I go way down.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where when you get down like that, maybe it's something evil, maybe it's a personality deficiency, but I get real comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, the solitude, it's appealing.
Right.
You know, I tell people all the time, I'm trying to be more social, right? I'm trying to get out more. I'm trying to do those things, because I'm like, dude, you need to live life, right? And so, but I tell everybody, I have to put in a lot of effort to not stay home by myself.
Yeah.
Because that's what I like to do. And that year after Dad passed, man, everybody left me alone, because that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, and it was nice for people to give me my space, but it got real ugly. You know, there was the punching of the bed, there was the thing at the door, and like I said, I'd never been in a position where I felt like whatever this is, if it's one thing or multiple things, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be comfortable,
Right.
But it is, and it's comfortable enough that it's showing itself to me, and it doesn't think I can do anything about it.
Right.
You know, and it was coming back to my Christian roots, so to speak.
Yes.
That really helped free me up, man. Because I'll be honest with you, I get sad, I get blue. You know, everybody does. But I'm so much better than what I was. And you know what? A lot of it that really helps me is, and I think I mentioned this to you earlier, I know I told somebody else, I got to work real hard to be nice to people. You know? I like to be nice to people, but I didn't grow up that way.
Right.
You know, I grew up, I had a text thread with some friends, and I said, you know what? I'm so, because of the people that I grew up with, siblings and friends, I am so comfortable around assholes and motherfuckers. You know? And it's like, there's a bit of me, and this sounds very negative, and I've talked to some buddies who have become more Christian, and we have these conversations, which is nice, man, because I don't think my dad and his buddies talked about stuff like this, but me and my friends do. And it's funny because, like, I talked to a buddy today, and not in these exact words, but I like having that motherfucker in my back pocket.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he's like, you got to get rid of that motherfucker, man. It's not going to do you any good in the long run.
That could be hanging on. That could be something you're hanging on to.
Yeah.
That allows that to come back, to allow the entity.
Yeah.
I totally believe that, hanging on to those things, and this is why. And I used to begrudge people, and I would tell people, if you're friends with him, I'm done with you. Like, I was the hardest in the military, and after Mom passed, I went through this huge spell of just being a jerk, and I do believe that you allow it to fester. Like, it's a cancer. Like they always say, it's a cancer. So I think having that in your back pocket allows that thing to hang just a little hangnail on you. And so I truly believe that maybe it's something that just stays there, that it'll constantly be around.
And you know, it's interesting because I agree with you, and I know I need to detach myself from that portion of my personality or what I am, because I know it's not going to benefit anything. You know, it's kind of holding on to something that you don't need to hold on to anymore. You know, you have other tools in your toolbox to deal with things. But to me, it's kind of like the conversation I had with my buddy today. It's like, I even told him, I said, I don't go out very often. Why'd you look that way? Don't do that.
No. A deer. It was a deer. Sorry.
Okay. I told my buddy, I said, I don't go out very often. I said, but if I go somewhere and I see somebody who's being an asshole, like, I will put myself in proximity to that person because
the attraction, it's like a magnet.
Well, it's in a sort of way, but it's a magnet because I don't want him to be an asshole to you.
Right.
I want him to be an asshole to me because I know I can handle it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And in a screwed up way, my mom humors me, but I'm like, she's like, well, you need to not be that way. And I always, and this is me probably being blasphemous, and I shouldn't say that. But I'm like, hey, even God's got Archangel Michael.
There you go.
You know, and I always joke with my mom. I'm like, somebody's got to do the dirty work, and I'm happy to do the dirty work. You know, because the way we grew up, you know, me and my siblings. I mean, it was a sharp tongue all the time. We got physical rarely, but we get physical. It was the tongue,
right?
You know, and it was like, if you want to say ugly things to people, let's say ugly things to each other. You know,
you can match that energy.
I can match the energy. Yeah. But it's like talking to my buddy today. He's like, you got to get rid of it, man. You got to let it go. And I'm like, it kind of goes back to when my brother Eddie died. Mm-hmm. Like, my brother Joe is he's like a deacon or something now. He's a preacher. But we had a conversation here one day after Eddie died, and I talked to him about anger and sorrow and hatred and all these emotions that I told him. I said, man, I can't let them go.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, why are you hanging on to them? And this is like this is real fucked up. But I said, you know what? I said, because the last time I physically had my brother Eddie, those were my emotions. And I feel like if I let those emotions go away, I'm letting Eddie go away.
Yeah.
And I get that that's not true. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
A lot of people, that's not true. Your brother, and I get that. But in here, that's the only connection I have to him anymore, are those emotions, because those were the emotions I had when he was sitting in the cooler and I had my hand on his chest and he still was warm. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's like that was my connection.
Yeah.
So in a fucked up way, I'm holding on to something for a reason that makes sense to me, but in reality is probably inviting something negative.
Correct.
You know? Oh, Louie.
100%.
Therapy.
This is good stuff. Yeah. And I think I get my empathy and the sensitivity of others in that from my mom. Mm. I remember as a kid, my mom always wanted us during the summer to find a Bible school and find a Bible, like we were doing Baptist. I was like, we're Catholic. We believe in Mary. They don't. Like, all those little things. And she took us to, I remember the family drove down to this Baptist church on the south side of town. Mm-hmm. And we all walked in to meet the pastor and everything. We had a meeting because my mom was like, I'm going to bring my kids here. Like, I just want to get to know you all. And I remember we were getting up to leave. It was a great meeting. He wanted to meet the kids. I didn't think about it, but he was so interested in us. We were 7 kids, 5 boys, 2 girls. And when we got up to leave, I remember my mom and her friend took her over there to meet her because her friend was Baptist. When my mom shook her hand, she turned and says, all right, we're leaving. And she rushed us out. And I remember to this day, she kept saying, there's something wrong with that man. There's something not right. There's something in that place. A month later, he's in the news for child abuse, for abusing or being a pedophile. Wow. And so something came to her and she was able to pick that up. And to this day, I think when I can walk into a space, I'm like, oh, this is not, something's in this room, and it doesn't have to be so sinister, but there's something emotional here, there's something in attachment. So I move very gingerly through that space and I get out of there as quickly as possible. Because I don't need. I already have something follow me. I don't need nothing else catching on. I'm not a train. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Not taking passengers here.
You know what's funny is I got some friends that like to ghost hunt. And,
do they?
Yeah, and you know, after Eddie passed away, like, and then plus, like I said, I feel like since I was maybe 19, I think that's when the first one I saw something. I always saw things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was never scary. It was never malicious.
Right.
It was just like I was like, oh, it's just a ghost, right? And so I didn't actively pursue it, but it was always interesting. I always watch weird stuff on TV and stuff too, but she's just scared me. Nicole, you scared me, girl.
I was worried. I thought was that something that caught in my eye?
Yeah, she scared shit out of me too. But it's funny because like we went to this haunted house in East Texas and we didn't see anything. It could have been a haunted house. I don't know. But it was one of those things where there's 40 people walking around. And It's like, okay, you're not going to see anything. Well, then some time went by and we went up to, what's that name? It's called Haunted Hill House in Mineral Wells.
Oh.
And we went up there and we all, at the time, we all lived in different cities. So we were just meeting up in Mineral Wells. Beautiful town. I'd love to go there one day. There's a place called Crazy Water Hotel. It looks absolutely beautiful. Like you would love it. Clawfoot, tubs, all kinds. Anyway,
wow.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It looks like at one point there was a lot of money there. It was they found, I think, lithium in the water.
Oh, wow.
And so people who were having mental issues, they would go and they would put them in these wells because apparently the lithium would help.
Right.
So I remember I'm driving up there, and it was interesting because like I'm nervous. I'm a chicken shit, Louie. And so I go and I end up driving through a town called Hamilton, and it was so interesting because I just drove through it. But as soon as I got into that town, the first thing that came out of my mouth is, "What are you hiding?"
Wow.
I was like, and it literally came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
"What are you hiding?" I was like, something happened in this town. Like, I don't know. I was like, this town has a secret.
Right.
So I continue. I go to Mineral Wells. And we get to this place, and it's a scary house full of shit. And so it's me, two friends of theirs, and one of them's pregnant, right? So we go, and we're getting the little download from the owners.
Right.
And they're talking about how they, and you know, a lot of times people play up their haunted houses, right? Because they're trying to make money. I don't know if they're being honest. I don't know if they're playing up.
To build the lore of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just playing it cool, right? And so, sorry, I'm super gassy, but gizzards from bushes. Sorry. But so we're sitting there in this little orientation, and the lady says, "Yeah, we've had 3 or 4 miscarriages attributed to this house, and blah, blah, blah." We already knew the other girl was pregnant.
Right.
So everybody's just kind of staring at each other and not saying anything. And I'm the guy that's like, you know what? Let me ask the question.
Right.
So I tell the lady, I'm like, "Hey, we'd like a few minutes to go talk outside." And she said, "We all need to hurry because apparently I guess they like live stream it on Facebook. So they have a time for it once you start." We go outside and I tell the girl, I said, "Look, girl," by the way, she was super pretty. I said, "Look, if you don't want to do this, I know your mom's here. Your mom wants to do it. If you don't want to do it," I said, "Let's go in the truck. We'll go into town. We'll have dinner. There's some live music." I said, "We'll go check it out. When they get done, I'll take you back to your place." And the mom's like, "Well, I don't want to bring anything home to her either." So, you know, and so they didn't go. So finally, I'm like, "Fine, I'll go in with my 2 friends." So we go in there and we sit in this room, and I'm not even going to say the name of whatever entity they said is there. But we go into this like living room, and we're sitting around, and the lady's like, "Introduce yourself to whatever it is." So my first buddy goes, and then my friend goes, she goes, and then it's my turn. And I'm sitting there in the living room, and I just like, I'm getting all this tension in my neck and my shoulders, and I don't want to do it, man. But I'm, you know, peer pressure's a motherfucker.
Exactly.
Right? So I go, "Hi, I'm Gabe," and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so we do that little part. Then we go into like the main entry where we first came in, and she shows you all this stuff from around the world that's supposed to be haunted and all kinds of stuff. And so finally it hits me. The first one we went to was maybe a haunted house.
Right.
This one's supposed to be a haunted house, but she's also bringing negative things into the house.
Building on top of that already.
Adding to it.
Right.
Trying to, I think we were even told at one point, if I remember correctly, don't pray before you come in. We don't want you bringing that in here. We want everything in here to stay here.
Wow.
And so I remember she's showing us all these things from around the world, supposedly around the world.
Right.
And so I look at my friend and I said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry to do this to you. I gave her a kiss on the forehead. I said, I can't do this shit.
Yeah.
I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, I thought it was just a haunted house. I said, this lady's got all kinds of things here. They're adding to it. I said, I'm not comfortable.
Exactly.
I got out, and she's like, no, don't go. And I said, look, man, I am so sorry. You know, I said, but if something were to happen to me, I would pray to Jesus.
Exactly.
I said, and I don't feel that it's right that I seek these things thinking that I can still go pray to Jesus. Even though maybe he would still help.
Right.
But now I'm seeking something that I know I shouldn't be. I said, and I don't want to be here.
Amen.
Dude, I shit you not. I left that premises. I drove off the lot. It was like a completely different person. My stress, in my neck, my back.
All of that released.
The weight was gone. I was laughing. I stopped to get gas. I called my wife. I was laughing. And she's like, what's so funny? I said, I don't know. I feel like I got away with something.
Yeah.
I said, and she goes, well, I'm glad you did. Dude, I shit you not. It was probably, I think I was there 45 minutes, an hour. Mm-hmm. And I had a 4-hour drive home. And I was like, she's like, well, you're going to get a room? I said, I'm driving home. I said, I feel good. I'm awake. I'm happy. I'm driving home. And I ended up getting home like at 2 a.m. Well, I think a week or two later, we are following their Facebook page.
Right.
And it's like, the alert. They're like, somebody got jumped, which means not a possession, but a spirit jumped into them briefly. And it was funny because they show the video, and he's sitting outside on this stoop where I was sitting about a week before, and he's screaming up into the air, and then he's like, well, how do I get out here? And everything that I was feeling in that living room, the shoulder pain, the stress in the neck, was everything they said he was describing before that happened to him.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, I'm glad I got out of there. You know,
that could have been you.
And you know, I still find, oh shit, she did it again. I still find that appealing. Right? That's her. Yeah, good.
Is it?
Yeah.
The lights in my face.
Yeah, I just got real scared. But you know what? I would love to go to. You can stay the night there at Mission and Goliad. Like I still find that appealing, and maybe I shouldn't. But man, being someplace where people were inviting things over, it's a different animal.
That's a different story.
Man. It's a different animal.
Going into a space like that. I used to watch a TV show, Paranormal State, I think it's called.
Oh, yeah.
And
he always talked about something following him from his childhood.
Great. And have you ever watched the episodes?
Oh, yeah.
I would hate myself because I was like, I'm so interested because somebody else is going through what I'm going through. And they're actually recording it and taping it and doing investigating on it. But then at night, I was like, now I have all these thoughts in my head. Now, did I open myself up? My mom was a believer that no matter what happens, she would turn the channel. If there was a horror movie commercial for a horror movie, that's not of God. She would change the channel. Right. And I remember on her deathbed, as she was getting closer before she had her stroke that she couldn't talk. She's like, did I do right by you as a mother? And I said, I'm successful. Like, I'm good at where I'm at. I said, but the one thing I will tell you, and I mentioned George. I said, I didn't listen to you then. And I said, but something has always been around me ever since then. And I said, but I don't know if it's because of the Catholic upbringing and the brimstone and fire and the devil and all this talk. Is that my imagination or not? Because I would listen to friends saying, oh, that's your imagination or you're retired. And she said, trust your heart and believe in that. And to this day, I truly believe that all this is out there. And it's different levels, but it's just the sensitivity of others compared to what we experience. Right. And so it's the craziest thing to be open to exposing it. But that TV show, at one point, if you remember, he was in, this is what really freaked me out. It said things, no matter where you're at, like I kept saying, why are you here? And I'm in Alaska, now I'm in Turkey, and I'm in a new house. Why you keep following me? Whatever the entity that was after him actually wrote a note through one of their one of the possessions that was happening in the episode. Mm-hmm. That they did not so much an exorcism, but they did a prayer over in like New Orleans, and then miles up the Mississippi River, miles away in a different state, the same entity said, I'm still not, I like something to the fact like, you haven't got rid of me. I'm still coming for you.
I think I remember that one.
Yeah, and that is what freaked me out. And that I'm getting goosebumps again. That is what I truly believe that things will follow us. And when you invite it in, like, how do you have a defense for that? A quick story: when my some friends of mine that used to live in San Antonio, they were living downtown and they got a house. I think, and they were told it was haunted by people. And of course, they weren't really. They'll probably see this because they're on my Facebook page, so they'll probably remember this story. So I won't name them, but they'll know it's them. So I helped them move into this house. So the three of us and I think another friend, moving everything into the garage, and then we were sitting down having pizza after the end of it was at evening time, and we're sitting there eating pizza, and all of a sudden, there was a crash in the garage. Now, I'm military, so we stacked boxes, and they're very particular. So everything was put away, like, to unload the truck. So we go in there and like, well, what fell? So we saw some boxes, like, how did that happen? So we're like, okay, things happen. So as we're walking back from the garage into back into the house, they're like, who's bleeding? We looked down. One of them had looked down, and there was 3 drops of blood in the threshold from the garage into the house. There's 3 drops of blood. And so we're looking at each other like, well, we didn't get cut. Like, we don't know where it came from. So we went and sat back down, finished up, and I was like, I'm going to go home. And even though they told me the house might have been haunted, and I don't think it was the midget mansion, but it was in the area. And so we used to joke, oh, the effing midgets, this and that. I'll probably get canceled because of that word. So I'll get ready to leave, and as I get up, they had this beautiful crystal glass door, and you see the red lights coming through the door, and I was like, well, what is going on outside? Like, you can see the red lights. As we looked at the window, the brake lights are on in the rental truck, the huge rental truck that's sitting in front of the house. The brake lights are on, and I said, oh shit, I thought we were getting robbed. Like, I thought somebody was going to steal the truck.
Yeah.
So we try to go out the front door, and we cannot get it to unlock. We can't get it to open. I'm like trying to spin the knob, and it's one of the older antique ones that goes along with the house at the time. Mm-hmm. So we go out through the garage, and nobody's in the truck. The brake lights are on. So we go in, we open up the door, like pump the brakes real quick, and they go out. So I didn't think nothing. I go home to my house, and I'm alone. Nobody's in the house. At that time, I didn't have any roommates. I just had my 2 dogs. So I go into the room, go into the bedroom, turn on the TV, and it's just static. Or I'm not getting any sound. TV's on, but there's no sound. And the dogs are a little particular. Like, the dogs are not really, I'm like, you see me all day, and then they were acting weird.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, maybe the cable shorted. So I go into the living room to grab cables. As soon as I grabbed, back in the old days, they had the little plug-in, the AV audio inputs and output. So I go into the living room and grab a drawer and grabbed it. As soon as I grabbed it, all of a sudden, I freak out and I jump out of my skin. The TV, because I kept turning up the volume trying to get it to sound, at full blast, the TV starts blaring, and the dogs are going crazy, barking. So I go running in there, and like my heart's pounding. I'm like trying to figure out what the hell is happening. So I just attribute it to just technicalities. And then my friends, I go back the next day to help finish cleaning, moving them in. And a friend of theirs flew into town from Chicago, and he was going to stay with me while they were unpacking the house and getting the spare room ready. So we go finish them unpacking, and then we leave. And he comes back to the house. But this time, comes back to the house, and I was telling him like the weird things happen, like the TV. I said, if the TV goes off, I'm having some electrical problems. So like, don't freak out if you hear that in the middle of the night. Like, trying to make excuses, thinking that's what it was. So he goes to bed. I go to bed, and in the morning, I get up. We're making breakfast, and he's like, "Hey, did you use the guest bathroom last night?" And I says, "No, why?" He goes, "Oh, I was curious because I thought I had cut myself, but I'm not cut. But there was 3 drops of blood near the toilet."
What?
Yes. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, with 3 drops of blood near the toilet. And this was in my room. Now, I lived alone. In his room, nobody ever went into the room. It was a 3-bedroom house. And he handed me a sticky note with numbers on it. And I was like, where did this come from? He goes, it was on the nightstand. And I don't remember the numbers, but it wasn't a phone number. It was so random. And like, why would I put something in his room? Like, I have my own bedroom, so it didn't make sense to me. So we go back and we're explaining, like, we're finishing up moving them in, and we're relaxing, we're having TV. And all of a sudden, in their house, there's this tall shadow that moves. Like if you look behind you, like the glass windows.
I will not.
Oh, you don't. But from one corner, so we're sitting in on this side of the house. Like if this is our side of the house, we're on the couches here, where the TV's in the corner, where Nicole's sitting. This shadow comes from behind the TV, tall, like 10 foot tall. They had huge, and moves across. So I'm thinking, I see it, but I'm like, okay, I'm the only one. And I'm frozen, and I'm looking at this thing just slowly move. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's a car outside, but there's no car moving outside. You know how the shadows move when the car drives away?
Hold that thought, Louie.
Okay.
I got to pee.
Oh, thank you. So do I.
Okay. Louie, I'm so sorry for cutting you off. I had to pee so bad. And I know everybody listening was like, what was it? What was it?
Yeah.
So if you will, accommodating Gabe's weak bladder, can you pick up where you were with the shadow moving across the room?
So the four of us are sitting there. The shadow moves slowly across the wall. And I'm freaking out. And I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be a car behind us. And so I'm in my head, I'm trying to rationalize what I just saw and trying to pretend like I'm the only one that saw it. Okay, nobody say anything. Not realizing that my friend, I'll call him D. I don't know if he wants his name out there. So D says, "Did you see that?" He's sitting. He thought it was his laptop. So he was moving his laptop while I'm watching this move. He's moving his laptop, thinking he was making the shadow with his laptop, but he realized he had no control over what was happening. And so, I'm out of here. I am so out of here right now. I said, I'm gone. And so we always kept saying the effing midgets,
Yeah.
And so I remember leaving.
Were they little?
No, they was tall.
Okay.
This thing was huge. So I leave for the evening. I said, I can't be in here. And so when I get to my car, realizing the last two experiences I had with the blood drops in my bathroom, the unexplained TV incident and how strange my dogs were acting.
And the numbers on the note.
And the numbers on the note that I still, to this day, don't even know where that came from. As before I opened my door to my vehicle, I stopped and I prayed. And it says, anything that is around me right now that was in the house that might be with me, you are not invited into my vehicle. Like I started saying a little prayer and denouncing everything. It says, I leave here solo, single, and within the blood of Christ. And then I drove away. Never had an incident. Go back to them. So my AC broke, and I was seeing the guy at that time. So we decide, Devin and, I said his name. Devin.
D.
That's it. D. D says, well, just come over here. You can stay in the night. And I was like, I don't know if I want to just stay over there. So me.
Was D trying to run game?
No. He was married. He had a guy. So we go over with my dog, Maddie. I love my little Maddie. We go over and we went to bed. Like we hung out, we went to bed. And my dog could not sleep. She kept jumping on the bed, off the bed. She'd jump off the bed, run to the door, and would sniff, and then run back. And they had cats, so I kept trying to account it to the cats. But all of a sudden, the room got so cold that I could see my breath. And it was the middle of summer, so the AC would come on, but no AC in the summer of Texas gets to below freezing. And I was shivering. And then I started saying, Jesus, what's going on in this room? Like I couldn't explain it. And as I tried to wake up, the guy I was seeing, he wouldn't wake up. But I wasn't able to, I wasn't even moving my hand. I thought I was moving my hand, but I was so frozen what was happening. There was a presence and entity in my room that I couldn't stand it. I couldn't wait to get out of that house. And my dog just would not sleep the whole night. Like she slept for 2 days because she felt something. And, dogs, they say, can attract or see things. So we leave, and then this house just continued to be this entity, whatever was happening. So we had a pool party. The house was shaped, again, back to the U shape. So I'm thinking maybe there's something with that, like my apartment. The house was shaped in a U. In the middle was a pool, and it was all cemented in, so there was a pool. So we had some friends over. We're hanging out, and we're telling the stories and kind of laughing about it. We're drunk, so we're like, oh, the effing, M, the midgets, and this and that. We're just making jokes. Out of nowhere, the side gate to where it goes into the pool house or to the pump and stuff flies open and bangs 5 times. Bang, 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 bang.
Wow.
I could not get out of that pool fast enough. I got my stuff, and I refused to go back to that house again. And those are the things that I know to be true, that I know something has been around me or exposed to that, and I just refuse to that. To this day, my current dog, Gia, she will lay, as I'm in the living room watching, she will lay in the right at the foot of the hallway, looking down, and that's all she does. And every once in a while, she'll pick up her head and her ears go up, and she's looking down the hallway. And I said, no, like I thought we were past all this. And she will bark in the middle of the night, and she now to this day she sleeps at the foot of my bed, facing the door. Every time I've seen my shadow or man or whatever you want to call him, that presence has always come from the door to come in. And I probably should have never took the prayer card that was stuck in the door frame. I should have never took that out. But to this day, she is awake and she's vivid into whatever she's seeing is happening in the house. I still pray. I still do holy water. But I think there's some things that we have to deal with, and maybe never will escape us. So there has to be, and I keep looking at what am I doing in my life that allows this thing to contain me or to still continue to be attracted to my energy. And as I try to, I don't want to say I was ever a bad person, but as I tried to live the life I live now that everybody sees, and I'm trying to do good for the community and all this stuff, that doesn't make that happy.
Yeah,
that doesn't make that happy. So whatever that is, that thing, I don't want to ever give it a name to have control over it like that. But I think that is why I think we're always under attack.
Yeah. And
so and I do have a temper, like most people haven't seen it, but I do have a truly dark, ugly side that I pray that nobody ever gets to see that Louie again that has been out there. So like yourself hanging on to something.
Yeah.
There's something deep down inside that I tap into, that anger and that hatred that I can always release. And those are things that I hope will never have to come out. But I think that is why there's always something still attached to me, some spirit or entity or whatever will always be attached to me. And I never want to get to the point where I release whatever's in me to match that energy.
Yeah. It's interesting because I know that my defense is God, it's Jesus, right? But the motherfucker I talked about earlier, to me, that's my defense that I keep in my back pocket.
Right.
And I know that holding on to that doesn't let me utilize who I really should, which is God, which is Jesus.
Right.
And for me to truly embrace that, I know I have to kill the motherfucker.
Right.
Right. And I think that's part of my problem. One thing that I'm curious, I don't know if you're open to it, and I don't know that it would help, but, having a priest come in and bless the house or give a blessing, But at the same time, I've always heard that the devil is more active after the ones that he doesn't have, as opposed to the ones that he already does.
They're in a comfort zone with him.
Right.
Yes.
And for you to do the work that you do, to be the person that you are to a lot of people, I'm not trying to say this in a weird way or a negative way, but you're a greater prize than somebody who just hangs out at their house and watches TV all day. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To something evil, you're a bigger prize,
Right.
And so, for that, I feel like it's you're constantly, and I say you as in the general you, you're constantly in a fight.
Yeah.
This fight for your eternal life.
Yeah.
Because that never stops. Right. And it's kind of one of those things, we go through these little ebbs and flows where, hey, you're a womanizer asshole and everybody likes you. I'll give you a good example. My dad, when he was younger, he, when you want to have a good time, you called Bear.
Yeah.
We're going to drink beer. We're going to hang out. We're going to flirt with women. Call Bear. Bear's down. He loves it. Dad, my mom got real sick. My dad went with her to a retreat in Laredo. It was a Catholic church retreat. Dad didn't want to go. Dad worked at U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel was the Wild West back in the day. They carried water and beer in their ice chests, and they drank all day long. After work, a bunch of guys would hang out on the side of the road, on the country road, and they drink beer and hang out there until it got dark. Dad always had beer at the house. Dad was very travieso when he was younger,
Right.
And so he goes with Mom to this retreat, and he said they bring the Holy Eucharist by. He said, we sat in the front. They bring the Holy Eucharist by. He said, I fell to my knees and I started crying. He said, I didn't want to be on my knees. I didn't want to be crying. He said, but I couldn't stop crying and I couldn't get up. Dad was a full-out alcoholic. After that weekend in Laredo, Dad never had another drink of beer, ever. Cold turkey. Dad went back to work, and people would say, hey, here, beer. Here, Bear, have a beer.
Right.
I don't want one. Take it. I don't want one. He said, slowly, I lost all my friends. No, people, I'd come into a room, and people would leave the room. They didn't want to be around me, because now I wasn't the party guy anymore. I wanted to talk about Jesus. I wanted to talk about the Bible, and they didn't want that.
No.
He says one day they tell him he was a pump mechanic. Dad quit school in the 7th grade. You know, his dad had left him when he was in the 4th grade, and so he went to work to take care of Grandma and his sisters. So Dad worked his way in to become a pump mechanic for U.S. Steel. They tell him, hey, Bear, go out into this field, get a couple of pumps, fix one up, and take it to this yard. They need it over here. All right. He says, I got 3 pumps. I brought it back to the workshop. I put one together. I got it running, put new gaskets, painted it. It was perfect. Yeah. He said, I started crying. He said, because I realized that's what God did to me. He said, I was dead in the junkyard with all the trash. He said, and he brought me in, he cleaned me up, and he fixed me up, and he made me better. He said, and when I understood that and started living that way, he said, I'd sit and I'd have lunch by myself all the time. He said, I'd cry because I was the guy that had all the friends. Right. And now I've got nobody. So I thought I had nobody. And he said, and slowly this gentleman came in and said, hey, Bear, I know you read the Bible and stuff. He said, my wife or my daughter, I can't remember, were sick. He says, can you show me how to pray? And so my dad said, sure. Yeah. He said, and slowly, he said, I got all my friends back. But they weren't coming to me to party. They were coming to me to talk about the Bible, to talk about Jesus.
The right people aligned.
Yes. And you know what's interesting is it's a lifelong fight. When Dad died, I'll tell you right now, I haven't told many people this. When Dad died, I was so angry, Louie. I was so angry. And I think I realized what the problem was. The problem was, even though Dad was always a good guy, he did a lot of bad things when he was younger. Right. But in my opinion, I was very angry, and maybe it kind of was at God. I didn't know if it was in the beginning or not. Yeah. But it finally dawned on me after about a year. I said, if Dad was so strong in his faith and he died the way he died, what chance do I have? Yeah. You know, Dad was diabetic. Dad lost a leg. He was fixing to lose another leg. The day he died on the way to the hospital because they were probably going to cut another leg off. He had a pacemaker defibrillator. He had tons of events, but he stayed strong in his faith. Yeah. He loved his wife. He loved us. He was heartbroken that he had to bury his son. Yeah. And when Dad died, and I know it was mercy. I know God took Dad before he had to go through that surgery. You know, but like I told you earlier, when I came in that front door and he's dead on the kitchen floor. Yeah. The kitchen is the hearth of the house. Yeah. That's where everything happens.
You break bread. You have family.
Everything. And then it's over because he's dead on the floor. To me, I was so angry at that. And it took me a while to realize it's just the way it is. Yeah. You know, God, there was mercy. Even in that. Right. There was mercy.
You can find that.
You know, it's funny because my mom told me he had to help Dad leave because Dad had a motorized chair. Yeah. And he always wore this hat. It said the Great One, number 11, because we made it for my brother Eddie when he died. Eddie always called himself the Great One. He was my brother Vidal says he loved the number 11 because he had to be number 1 twice.
I love that.
You know what's funny is he wore that hat every single day after Eddie died. Every day. Wow. The day he died, he got in his car and he got in his cart and he was driving out of the bedroom, and my mom told me, she said, "Hey Bear, what about your cap? Don't you need it?" And he says, "No, I don't need it." And then he died in his chair. And you know, it's funny because I think that's when I was real angry. I was real negative. was very detached to these negative things that maybe these things that I've always seen were negative. Right. They just didn't present that way.
Right.
Now all of a sudden they're presenting negative. And it was one of those things where I was very detached, you know, and I think a lot of the stories that we tell, we have that commonality that it's literally a fight for our souls.
Right.
Right. And it's like, we have to keep in mind, a lot of times we go, I love Louie. As long as it doesn't happen to Louie, it's all right. It can happen to me, but I don't want it to happen to Louie.
Right.
And it's like, no. You have to be careful, and you have to take care of yourself as well.
Right.
You know? And a lot of times I think these negative things that we encounter, and even if you don't encounter them, and it's that constant negativity, that constantly feeling down, the depression, that's the same thing. It's coming from the same place.
Right.
And we've got to maintain that connection with our faith, you know? And,
you're right.
A lot of times people tend to neglect it or say, it's mojo.
Right.
But this is the funny thing, is like, if there's good, there's negative. If there's negative, there's good.
Right.
And we witness negative. So there's got to be good.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
You got me all emotional, Louie.
No, I hear you. When you talk about your dad and the emotions, and I feel the same thing about my mom. Like, really, she really instituted a lot of that into the family. When she passed away, I was so angry, so hateful. When I look back at everything that has happened to our family, and Nicole knows a lot of this stuff, but when I was being interviewed for Kokoski, the managing director for the foundation, the head guy says, I'm trying to go through my resume. He said, no, who are you as a person? And I said, this is why I think I'm good for this job. My family, we have went through loss. We have went through the sexual rape of my sister who's Down syndrome. I've had a sister that's Down and took care of elderly in our household. Like, everything you could think of. Witness a whole branch of my family tree dissolved due to alcohol, drugs, and everything like that. And to witness all this, I could have been a statistic. So I know I'm already behind the 8 ball. And I look at my family and the success that majority of us had. We should have all fallen at one point. When my dad used to choke my mom out to near death, and we're going to the hospital, and the cops are coming, and we're at the women's battery shelter, and all these things that are happening to our family, we were meant to be taken over. So I think when you look at it all, between, you know, George being I don't want to say complete exorcism, but all that happened to George, and then the things that have happened throughout my timeline and the family, we were probably not meant to be where we're at today. So that's why I think we're constantly under attack. And of course, I wasn't always the person I am today. Well, I always had my faults, and I was ugly, I was mean, I was all these things that I was. But I when you look back, and as you were talking, I'm having pictures in my head of a childhood, from being outside of a bedroom window, hearing my mom being choked out. That's demonic. A normal human would not try to kill their wife. So to whatever entity that was released from George remained in that house. But I think it even stems from my mom. There's I would say folklore, but there's a tale in San Antonio, now that it's old Highway 90. I think they call it historic old Highway 90. There was a bar there, and you can look this up. In that bar, there was a night where everybody was dancing, and a little cantina, whatever. A gentleman walks in, the most attractive man ever seen in that place. As the story goes, and my mom was there that night. Her and my sister Carol, her twin, were there that night. The man walks in. All the women are trying to get his attention, and I'm remembering her story. And he finally picks the person he's going to dance with. So this young lady is dancing in the middle of the room. They're carrying on, and all the other women, there's just this envy that fills the room of the women that are watching. And then there's a scream, and the woman that is with this man as he's dancing is she can't move, but the people around are noticing his feet are chicken's feet, large chicken's feet that are coming out of his pants. And that's when I realized this is I don't know what they called him a name, but ultimately the devil. So people are trying to panic and get out of the building. They're racing out into the street. Everybody's getting in their cars. They're trying to drive away. This thing goes out and sits in the middle of the road, and people are driving through him, but he's still there. They're passing right through him. They're trying to get away. And my mom and my sister and her sister were so enthralled. But my mom's like, we got to go. But my sister was like, well, no, look at him. she couldn't let that go.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the life she led versus my mom, who tried to release it and prayed over it. And my sister battled through my mom's sister, I keep saying my mom's sister battled through a lot of things. And ultimately the whole family, other than one, there's one still remaining of that tree branch. But it was his wife that brought him to church. It was his wife that got him out of the lifestyle. But he lost 3 brothers to drugs, alcohol, and one even was so bad that the cops ran him over during a high-speed chase. But I look at all those things that we battled through as a family to be here. I think that we were still, man, whatever is out there that was trying to get us hasn't left us yet. Like, it's still wanting. And I don't know, me and my family, and we haven't spoken since my dad passed away. I thought that would reunite us, even when my mom passed away, but we haven't reunited as a family. So I'm the one out here by myself and there's people connected to us, so I'm sure they'll probably hear this and like, why is he telling our family stories again? But I don't know if they've ever experienced any of this, but I know what I will battle, and I think we both will continue to battle because we probably were meant for worse, and we didn't fall to that. So the more good that we do, the more we speak on it, I think this, whatever is attached to you and attached to me, will eventually continue to until probably the day we actually go see our maker. But hopefully I will make it to the maker.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because earlier we had a conversation and, you know, I told you how difficult it is. I want to be a good guy. I want to be nice. But I told you earlier, it's so hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to be the asshole. You know, it is.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like I told you earlier, I'm kind of a linear thinker. And it's kind of like, you know, when I told you I started praying the rosary and we started getting scratched, you know, something excited me about that because all of a sudden it made sense. You know, I'm doing A and B's happening.
Right.
You know, so B's not happy.
Right.
So if I don't want B to be happy, I got to keep doing A.
Hey, exactly.
You know, but it's a continuous reminder and you get comfortable, you get complacent, and then you stop doing A so much, right? All of a sudden I pray the rosary less, you know?
Right.
And then I start being nice less. And then all of a sudden you're back in that weird place. And by the time you realize you're there, you're like, man, I've been here months.
Right.
I didn't realize that. And it's like, it's this continual battle that I think that we all have to go through, you know, and maybe it's till the day we die, you know, maybe we will have these issues till the day we die. But as long as we keep fighting them, we'll end up where we're supposed to be going.
Exactly.
So
exactly, because there's always the positive to the negative. So
sure.
When you start aligning more with the B, it can leave you alone. You get comfortable in that space, but that's the further you get from point A. Yeah. It'll just continue to drip, and as you fight back, that's when the attacks happen. No, come back and be comfortable in this space.
Yeah. Louie.
Sir.
I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you.
I always like having you out here. I'd like just being around you. You know, you're unofficially Mr. San Antonio.
Thank you.
Maybe officially at this point. But you know what, man? I really appreciate you sharing your stories.
Thank you.
Because I think I have some similarities with you. And there's times, and I'm not just me, not just you, I think all of us, you know, and there's times where it feels like we don't realize that we're in the mud. And then there's times where we feel like we're in the mud and we can't get out. Right. You know, but as long as we maintain that relationship with the Maker, with God, with Jesus, you know, we always have a chance to get out of that place. Exactly. You know, and I think having these experiences that you and I both have, you know, yours are a little more extreme than mine, but I think having these experiences are indicative of the fact that there's something not happy with the way we're living our lives. So we need to just keep doing what we're doing.
Right. We keep going and doing what we're doing.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Louie.
Appreciate you. Love you, sir. Thank you for
having me. Love you too.
Me.
Appreciate you. Thank you for coming on my Halloween special. Ooh. It was spooky, but at the same time, I think we made some good points, and I think people will be able to listen to this and realize there's help.
And if there's somebody out there going through the same things we have gone through in shadows, hopefully they reach out and we can build some solidarity and confidence in that. Sure. So, you know, we got to say one word before we close out to wash everything away.
Do it.
In the name of Jesus.
In the name of Jesus.
We were protected by the name of Jesus, and nothing will follow us. And tonight, hopefully we both have sound sleeps with no scratches, bumps, or bruises.
Absolutely. Thank you, Louie.
Thank you again.
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina podcast.
Yo, Barry.